Hey guys, today I'm going to be filming again with Parker at his house. We're going to keep working on the short film. Right now I'm skating to get dinner with him. Or not, oh man, not dinner, lunch. I'm getting lunch. We're getting lunch, we're going to get pizza at this place that he recommended, and I can't remember what it's called, but I know where it is. So, right now I'm headed there. Then we're gonna get an Uber to his house because it's kind of a long way to skate for me, and I think he's getting a ride in a car there. So okay, so I'm at Parker's house now, and after we got pizza, we got an Uber from the pizza place to here, and we had the nicest goddamn Uber driver that I've ever met in my entire life, and probably will ever meet in my entire life. Right? I mean, that's pretty accurate.
True, yeah, no.
She was amazing. He was talking about how he and his husband moved here from San Francisco, and they love it, and it's like, oh my god, dude, he was so nice. I can't even explain to you how nice he was. What was his name?
No idea, we never learned it.
We never learned his name. Anyway, if for somehow ridiculous reason you're watching this, you're awesome. Hello.
Hello there.
So I just left Parker's house. We filmed a lot more of the short film, and at the moment it's like 1 minute and 15 seconds long. What we figured out was that after we film it and I edit it and it's all completed, I'm gonna send it to Danny, who's the piano guy, and he's going to just play piano over it the whole time, and so that's gonna give it the feel throughout it. So that's gonna be awesome, and I'm very excited to see how it turns out. So I've wanted to do this for a while, and I finally did it. I put cereal on my ice cream, chocolate cereal specifically, and in all honesty, I give it a solid 10 out of 10. Today, I'm going to talk about my favorite genre of music. Now, why is jazz my favorite genre of music? Well, to me, personally, jazz, in my mind, encapsulates the creativity that is possible within music as a whole. It has the least amount of rules. Every genre of music has rules that aren't really rules, and no one follows them except for people who make it on the radio. But to me, jazz it's very free. There's a lot of your best musical minds are in jazz. A lot of the best musicians, technique-wise, nowadays, are in jazz and metal. You have definitely some that are in other genres, but for the most part, there's a lot of jazz musicians that are really talented, very skilled technically and musically, and in metal as well. But today we're not going to be talking about metal, we're going to be talking about jazz. Now, I'm going to give you a very brief history of jazz. The very, very roots of jazz come from slaves. Here in North America. And the first roots of jazz were when slaves would play music to entertain themselves after working, wherever they were working. And this is, it's funny. So they had a few instruments available, not a lot. Obviously they didn't have piano and bass and all this stuff that they have now. They had bones, which were jawbones that were hit together or scraped together for percussive effect, and they had fiddle and they had tambourine. And this is where the term cakewalk was created. If you know jazz, you know what cakewalk is. It's a type of jazz. If you don't, it's a type of jazz. Cakewalk is also a dance that was created by the slaves, and it was created to mock their masters. They would basically, their masters would walk like this around, very important, and so they would recreate that in a comedic manner, playing, their jazz, pseudo jazz, that it wasn't jazz, but that's where, this is the very, very early forms of jazz. So yeah, they would pretend to look like their masters all prissy and important looking. Fast forwarding a bunch of time all the way to 1910, or the 1900s, start of the 1900s, and the first start of jazz in the 1900s was known as ragtime. This is obviously still a very amazing form of jazz. I love ragtime. It's a style of jazz. Here, I'll play a short clip of ragtime starting right now. So this is ragtime. It's happy, it's upbeat, usually in a major, a major key. You have the yeah, that's ragtime. The funny thing about ragtime is that there's a lot of, if you know POSTMODERN JUKEBOX YouTube channel, I'll link them in the description. They sometimes, they do like, old-timey covers of new songs. And they do a lot of ragtime. You can take a song and turn it into ragtime if you know enough music theory to do so, and knowledge of time signatures and whatnot. And they do that a lot, and they did a ragtime version of a couple of songs that I really like, and that they escaped me. But you should definitely check them out. So now we're in the 1920s, and this is when swing jazz started to really erupt onto the popular music scene. So big band wasn't quite as popular yet. That was the 1930s. I'll play a 1930s big band swing song right now, and I'm sure by now you already know what it is. And as soon as it starts playing, you'll recognize it more. But so yeah, this was 1930s. 1920s was more, it was kind of just normal swing. And swing is a very, very popular form of jazz. A lot of jazz is swing. Like a lot of jazz is swing. When you go to a jazz club, most of the time the band will be playing swing jazz, like 75% of the time. It's very popular. It's really jazz's roots, more recent roots, besides like ragtime. Ragtime is also very popular, but swing is like the jazz formula, you know what I mean? So, and then obviously you have big band, like what's playing right now. And obviously you need a big band for that. So that's not necessarily, you wouldn't hear that in a jazz bar because you can't fit a big band in a jazz bar. So now I'm going to talk about why I like jazz, and I'll play something else for this. I like jazz as a listener because, and as a listener more specifically, as a listener and a musician who's listening. Okay, I'm gonna start that. Let's rewind. Start that over. I like jazz as a musician who is listening because, especially during solos, you hear all the flashy stuff, but during the parts that aren't so flashy, the simplistic melodic parts, especially in slower jazz, they're gorgeous. If assuming it's good. I'm only talking about good jazz here, but it's the fact that it's so diverse as a genre. Every genre of music is diverse in how complicated it can be, but to me, jazz is like the most. Like you have super simple jazz, like really basic jazz, but it's still good. Like basic in terms of technicality, like being able to play quickly or crazy stuff like that. It's slow, but it's pretty, and it takes a lot of skill to be able to create something like that. And then on the other spectrum, you have something that it also takes a lot of skill to create and a lot of skill to play. And now when you're playing slower jazz, doesn't necessarily mean it's easy to play, because when it's slow, there's a lot of feel that's involved. Feel is like, using different it's your way of playing. Like a beginner, even though like a piece is easy to play, they won't necessarily be able to play it well because there's just certain things that the original recording or original person who performed it just does that they can't do because they're just good musicians. And then on the